In the next few weeks, I and my entire family, Melissa, Jack, and Oliver, are setting off on this boat, a Bowman 46 called Ocean Melody, to sail very, very slowly around the world. We're in absolutely no rush. We're likely to make a few detours along the way, and if it takes us 10 years, so be it. We've been living aboard Ocean Melody for almost the past year now, and over the summer we did some amazing upgrades, including fitting a brand new Hydrovane to steer the boat using only the wind, replacing the knackered old mainsail with a brand spanking new one, replacing all the running rigging, and kitting the boat out with some amazing tech. Lithium batteries, power banks and inverters, heating systems and other modifications that will make our whole life easier on the go, like a full cockpit enclosure, which we're in the middle of building at the moment. But we're house sitting over winter, which has given us a fantastic opportunity to do a bit of a refit on the interior. As part of that interior refit, I've already removed, planed, varnished and refitted all the sole boards. I've completely rebuilt all of the seats in the saloon, changing their design and improving the size of them. Melissa's in the middle of doing new upholstery for the saloon, and I've also given all the cabinetry in the saloon a new lick of paint. My focus today though is the aft cabin. I want to turn this into an awesome space for Jack and Oliver, mostly for Jack at the moment because of course Oliver's too young to sleep by himself. Now I started this process a few weeks ago when I ripped out the aft cabin, particularly the bits along the sides where we got some drips under the tow rail. So I need to carry on with that and remove some of the old fiberglass. But before I can do anything, I've got to get rid of all the junk that's in here that I've piled up while I've been working in the saloon. So I need the aft cabin to go from looking like this to looking like this, which is much tidier and much easier to work on. The first thing I've got to tackle is this shelf behind me. Well, it's not even a shelf anymore. At some point in its design, it's had a shelf up there, and that had rotted out because there were some drips from the tow rail, so that's gone. The only thing that's left are little bits of fiberglass where the shelf was glassed onto the hull. I'm just going to cut those away and start fresh. And then the other thing I need to do is tighten up all of those bolts that are leaking. And I've got pretty much the same to do this side. Cut away the old fiberglass from where the old shelf was on and tighten up the bolts on the tow rail. Right, let's get started. Along with all of the work that I'm doing in the aft cabin on Ocean Melody, I'm also still doing further coats and work on the roof of the cockpit enclosure. A few people in last week's video did say probably a good idea to drill out and epoxy fill the standoffs for the solar panels. I think you're probably right, so I'm going to do that, then give it a quick sand over and give it another coat of paint. So now I've filled those top standoffs with epoxy and glassed over the top of them with some more biax, I'm back here to carry on with this side. I knew I was right. I knew I was right. Listen.
As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually. And in the midst of the fire, as it were gleaming metal, and thence came the great deceiver, who in his cunning and craftiness birthed the cursed slotted screw. From the fiery depths of the abyss, these infernal devices emerged, designed to ensnare the hands of the faithful and confound the work of the righteous. Let those who wield them beware, for they are tools of darkness, forged in the furnace of malevolence.
Bloody slotted screws. I hate slotted screws. Really hate slotted screws. Bloody hell. Oh. See, with a crosshead screw I could just do this with the drill. Oh. I'm trying to think about what I have for lunch, but I don't know. Undoing these slotted screws. Come on, oh, for God's sake. Just this. I should have some young, healthy person doing this for me, instead of some fat old man like I am. Oh, right, off you come. Now I can start cutting away all this old fiberglass. Ow! Oh, they're so pretty, and they have to retain the original aesthetic of the boat. You can't get rid of the flathead screws. They're so pretty. Bloody flathead screws. Right, so I've removed all of the old fiberglass that was holding on the old rotten shelves. Somebody had obviously put some shelves up there before and just fiberglassed them to the sides of the boat. And they'd done an okay job, but it wasn't terribly good. A lot of it was just pulling away, as you saw. So I've cleaned up all of the dust and the mold, and I've scrubbed it with a brush, and I've vacuumed it. And now I'm going to give it a wipe down with some panel wipe. You can see what I mean where the old shelf was fiberglassed up. I don't need to remove all of it because it's going to be behind insulation and the new wall covers, the new wall panels that are going to go up there. So I don't need to grind it right back to nothing. It's absolutely fine. It's never going to see the light of day again. So I'm completely comfortable with that. This piece of tubing here is where the electrical cables go through to the aft end. And you can actually also see, I'll point out while we're here, this area, this part of the boat, you can see there's a bulge here. This is foam cord, whereas that's solid fiberglass. And this is solid fiberglass, and this is foam core. So where these bolts come through, there's no danger of them having caused water ingress into the foam core, because the foam core doesn't start until about 10 inches inboard of the side decks, which is fantastic. So all these bolt holes, and the teak decks are held down, they're bonded down, they're not screwed or what have you. So there's no possible way that water can get into the foam core of this deck or into the sides, which is fantastic. This side's an awful lot worse. Again, I've cleaned up all the fiberglass and ripped all that off, so that's fine. And all the loose wood and all that kind of thing. But there seems to be a lot more mould on this side, so I'm going at it with a mixture of vinegar and things like that. And I've got this pink stuff, anti-mould cleaning spray, and I'm using an old kitchen brush to kind of really scrub into the corners. So hopefully that'll kill it and get rid of most of it. And as I say, all of this wall is going to be covered on the other side in some the same insulation that we used in the saloon ceiling. So it will be nice and warm in here. Right, now that's all cleaned up. I probably should do a little bit more, but what I want to do now is have a look at those bolts that were leaking. These are the bolts I'm talking about. They are to hold the tow rail down. And as you can see, over the years, because they didn't use nylocks, I think they probably were tightened up originally, but over the years, because they didn't use nylocks, the nuts have actually vibrated off. And one or two of them have the odd little drip. Now, as I say, they're not damaging the core of the deck, the foam core, because this bit is the foam core. Can you see that bulge out? And this bit is solid fiberglass. So what I need to do is I need to tighten them back up, thread lock them to stop them coming off, and try and find a way of sealing them. I'm going to use either some Sikaflex or some butyl tape. Butyl tape is a boat builder's best friend. It's kind of like the Mod Podge of the boat building world. It comes on a roll like this. This is all squished up. But when you peel it off, it's like this. It's kind of like putty, like Blue Tap, but it's completely waterproof and works just as well as Sikaflex in many, many applications, and better than Sikaflex in a lot of places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the butyl in my fingers like this into little sausages. I'm going to wrap it around the bolt head like so. Then when I tighten the nut up, it will squish that up and stop any leaks. And then to stop the nuts coming off in the future, thread lock. Now I'm really confused. Maybe it wasn't these that were dripping, because these just pull out. I can literally just pull them out. I don't know what they're even there for. I have no clue as to the history of this. I'm guessing these nuts and bolts were used to hold the tow rail down, maybe just while the sealant was setting or something. I've just come out to check this situation because, yeah, the tow rail is rock solid. All the chain plates are rock solid. The cheek blocks are rock solid. And they've all got teak plugs. So it must be that some water is getting in like round this chain plate or round these cheek blocks. It can't be the tow rail. And those bolts must have only been there to hold the tow rail, to squeeze it down while the adhesive was setting. I'm so confused. What on earth has gone on with those bolts? What is the history of that? At some point I'm going to have to get a hose pipe and figure out, which one of these was the actual culprit, because obviously they're not all dripping. It's not soaking wet in here. Bonkers. That is bizarre. Okay, so I think the next thing for me to do then is to fill each of those holes from the inside with some Sika and start putting the wall panels back up. So this pad eye here is for the aft lower for the mizzenmast. This one is for the cap shroud for the mizzenmast. And these four are for the cheek block, and that one is for the forward shroud. We've found the culprit. This is the forward lower chain plate for the mizzenmast, and I don't think that's just condensation, that's actually slightly wet. So that is where the moisture is coming in. It must have been mounted here previously, because there's two holes there where it must have been before. Now obviously I'm not going to start undoing the bolts for that pad eye with the mast up. That would be silly. So I'm going to do a temporary fix, and then next time we can actually look at the rigging properly. We're going to have the boat fully re-rigged and all the standing rigging replaced at some point. So when we do that, I'll actually rebed those pad eyes and do a proper job. For now, I'm just going to put a load of sealant around it and hope that at least slows it down for a year or two.
I wonder where you go when we're in the same space. You're more like a ghost.
Fantastic. Now I'm in a position where I can put the wooden laths back up and start putting the insulation in. I've always suffered with a bit of depression, you know, and it's things like this that trigger it. You know what's happened now, don't you? I've realised that the box of stainless steel screws that I have to put all this stuff back up, they're all too short. So I'm going to have to reuse slotted screws. In the words of Adam,
Need to remind everyone that we're working with what we have.
slotted screws. Ah. Aye. I'd just like to take this opportunity to give a huge shout out to our supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi. We're living entirely from the money we make from creating these videos now. Each video takes about 40 hours to film and about 10 or 15 hours to edit. The YouTube ads make up about 40% of our income now, but more than 50% of what we live on comes from the amazing people like this who pay to have the episodes early and to be part of the Sailing Melody family. Thanks very much, guys, we love you lots. I've mentioned before that one of our followers, Kate, very kindly sent us some money to get some insulation, and the stuff that we got, a couple of people have asked what it is. It's from Amazon. It's campervan sort of engine bay and campervan wall insulation. It's fire retardant and flame resistant and, you know, all of that stuff, noise deadening. And it's foil on one side, foam in the middle, and it's self-adhesive, it's sticky back. Oh, look at that. Crosshead screws, crosshead screws. Awesome, so the aft cabin is fully insulated. I haven't done the deck head yet, as you'll notice, that's coming up soon. But we've insulated it, I've put the boards back on the wall. I need to make some new boards to go in the upper section to replace where the shelves were that had rotted out. But that'll be really cool, and I'm going to make those completely removable so that I can inspect those bolts in the future. I can get to wiring and things like that. There's just going to be a few screws to take those trim panels off. So what I need to do now is get back to the workshop because the epoxy I was doing earlier should have dried, so I can carry on with the cockpit enclosure roof. Right, I'm back in the workshop and this is looking awesome. So I'm going to give it a quick sand, PPE on, and then I can give it another coat of paint. Just as a quick reminder, the paint I'm using is Jotun Hardtop XP, which is a two-part epoxy top coat, which is UV stable and has got a reasonably high gloss finish, so it means that we can clean it properly and it won't be all porous and hold bacteria. Perfect. The Jotun Hardtop XP is a 10:1 ratio, so I'm doing 300 millilitres of paint and 30 millimetres of hardener by volume. It's probably more accurate to do it by weight, but for the purposes of what I'm doing here, doing it by volume is absolutely fine. I'm never really very good at PPE, but for this kind of work I always use a quality respirator. And then for rolling this on, I'm using a flock roller, not a foam one. The foam ones tend to disintegrate a little bit more. The other thing you can do is roll and then tip out the bubbles or any imperfections with a dry brush. I might do a bit of that, but to be honest, I'm finding that the roller on its own is giving a perfectly good finish. That's all for this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Coming up, we will be getting a hose pipe on the side decks to track down exactly where those annoying drips are coming from. And also coming up very soon is the episode with Melissa's incredible upholstery, which you seriously have to see. I'm blown away by the quality of her seamstressing. Also, next week, Jonathan is planning to come and spend a few days with me on Steel Melody, so there'll be more Steel Melody content coming up really soon as well. Till then, take care of yourselves and don't forget to leave us a like and a comment if you have time. Bye!